Hello, and welcome to FluTac. I'm your host, Instructor Flu. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the world's very first polymer frame pistol. And if you thought it was the Glock, you will be sadly mistaken. Stay tuned on another exciting episode of FluTac, Armed Citizen Fire Training Solutions. So welcome back. My name is Instructor Flu, and once again, I'm the host of FluTac. For those of you who are new to the channel, thank you very much for our very first episode. I just want you to know that FluTac is a very unique experience, is that I'm going to give you information coming from a perspective from both a law enforcement officer, an Army veteran, and also as a civilian who believes in the Second Amendment. With this being said, it's time to talk about a little bit my favorite subject, polymer frame striker fire pistol. But before I unveil, a lot of people believe that the Glock manufactured or safe active pistols were the very first polymer frame pistols ever developed. And once again, if you thought that, you'll be very, very wrong. And before I open this beautiful box, even though it says Glock on it, why don't you comment below and tell me what do you think is the world's first mass-produced polymer frame pistol? I'll give you a couple seconds to figure this out and post it below. Okay, if you were one of the people who decided to say that it was a VP70 from H&K, you will be right. So right here, this is my own VP70. And here in FluTac, and since we are very empowered with giving the average citizen the ability to provide good marksmanship and understand the importance of firearm safety, we're going to check this weapon first. So we're going to make sure the magazine is released, pointing in a safe direction. There's a safe on here that goes right across the trigger section. We're going to pull it back, inspect the breech and chamber. Weapon system is clear. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is a clear weapon. So we have a clear weapon here. So before we break down the VP7, let's talk a little bit about its history, why I love this so much, and also why I think it's a cool weapon, but it has some major flaws of why it really never took off within the big civilian market. So the VP70, which stands for, my German's not very good, guys, but stands for Volkspistole 70, which means this is the people's pistol that was produced back in 1970. Now, when you think about it, this was a radical design. It really was a design back then which was really kind of unheard of. When you think about the United States, most people were still carrying around revolvers. They held 16 rounds. This weapon system actually had an 18-round high-capacity magazine, which is right here. As you can see, just looking into it, it's pretty much a double-stack magazine, 18 rounds. This one is particularly blued. It's a very solid construction. I really like these magazines. But guys, these things are very expensive. These cost roughly, on average, at least around $100, a little more so. So a little about the VP70. It really started with the H&K, who was obviously looking to develop more with plastics or high-strength polymers that actually went and developed this. It is a weapon system that, of course, is semi-automatic, and it did, even though it was produced in mass, it never really caught on. And once again, I'll talk to you why before in the past. One of the great things about the weapon system itself, I will say from personal experience, that it is relatively reliable, at least mine's particular ones in the rounds I put through it. And it is a weapon that's kind of unique in that compared to a lot of weapons today, even semi-automatics were really limited at roughly 13-round magazine. Sporting an 18-round magazine was just really amazing, awesome at that time. Now, one of the reasons why I had a magazine capacity so high is because it was also had another version that was identified with an M designator. So if you guys can just take a look here, you'll see right here it says Z, which stands for Zolks or civilians in German, I believe. Once again, I'm not German, I'm American, so I don't know for sure how to pronounce it. But they had an M version, which was for the military. Now, what made the M version so cool is that it had a 3-round burst capacity that was attached with a holster that also acted as a stock for the weapon, which gave that capacity and ability to actually fire in a 3-round automatic burst. Never shot that one, except for in a video game called Resident Evil 2, I shot it there. But with that being said, it really was really unique for its time. Let's just talk about a little bit of things about the pistol itself. Once again, we already checked to make sure that's clear. So double receiver is made out of course metal. Not too sure what it is, but I believe it's going to be some type of obviously steel that comes down to it. The lower receiver is made out of a polymer, really high strength polymer. This, in my personal opinion, compared to a Glock receiver, is actually is a little bit more stronger. It's really tough, and it's really kind of hard, which I kind of actually like being able to have that. And it really is a very solid platform getting it as well. Surprisingly, even though it is an 18-round magazine capacity, once again, as you guys can see here, the grip itself is actually relatively small and comfortable. And I have relatively, I would say, average size hands for a man, but it's a really good grip there that comes out to it. Nothing really too big or bulky that you can't get your grip around. Compared to American style firearms, it is a little bit different that it has the magazine release actually on the heel of the firearm here, as you guys can see. So this is the heel, and it's a very strong tension spring that actually goes and holds it there to get it. Another thing that's a little bit unique is that it has a crossbolt style safety here near the trigger area, which is pretty cool. As you guys can see here, it has red, which means that the weapon is ready to fire, and on the other side it's just be black, meaning that it's not. Another thing that's really unique about this weapon really is that it's very simple to really break down and be able to disconnect and things like that. I'm going to show you how to fill strip it here in a second. So it breaks down to a couple pieces. Your magazine already been taken apart. The next part right here is going to be simple. Make sure your weapon's pointed in a safe direction. There's a takedown lever here. Push this down. And then what you're going to do from here is put backward pressure on it and then lift it up slightly. What that's going to do is release the slide from the receiver, allowing it to go forward. As you guys can see the slide here, placing it down. Now this is a very unique design in that it has a very large recoil spring that goes directly around the barrel. And unlike most striker fire semi-automatic pistols, this has a fixed barrel, as you guys can see here. And besides that, the innards are really simple and really nothing there. Now, if you do want to go ahead and disconnect a little bit more, you can get a screwdriver, or you can also go ahead and get yourself a coin. But actually, I found out just for your hands, this is the back portion that access the striker that's inside here. All you really have to do is use your fingers, push it, rotate it, roughly about a 90-degree angle, and from there you have the spring here that's going to be for the striker, and you can doing it here real quickly. Might need some lube. There we go. And as you can see, you have the striker itself inside here. This beautiful little piece here. Really heavy duty. Really heavy duty. And once again, no tools. And that probably take me just talking about and got it not very long at all. Now, another thing about the weapon that was very unique is that with having this fixed barrel and being a standard blowback design, due to that, HK decided that you needed to have a little more of the pressure from that to actually go through the barrel. So if you could take a look in here, looking directly on the barrel, once again, the weapon system is safe. If I can find the camera lens, that is. There you go. So you can see that there's really deep grooves in the rifling there. What happens is that the extra pressure that came from the suspended propellant actually goes down here to help out with the weapon system itself, actually be able to do that. So once again, that's why you have those really deep grooves within a rifling right there. So you can go ahead and try to show that to you guys when it comes down to it. Generally speaking, these were mostly in the 9mm caliber, but there were a couple that were sold in a 9x21 millimeter. And I think those were usually for European markets where having 9mm parabellum was really designed or restricted to American, or restricted to military people within the European continent over there. And that's just a really quick down and dirty fill strip of the VP70Z made by H&K. Now let's put it back together. Once the weapon is clear, magazine, sorry, not the magazine, but the recoil spring goes right over the barrel like so. Then you get this slide. Once again, make sure that your takedown lever is placed in down position. You get your slide. You're going to push back on it, and there's little landing and grooves here and there. Then you're going to put in your spring, put it in here. And then you're just going to put back strap back in place. And you have a fully assembled world's first polymer frame pistol in your hand, the VP70, or like I like to call it, the granddaddy or the daddy of the Glock. Simple functions, chat is simple. Once you make sure weapon is safe, squeeze it back, hold it, and that's pretty much it. So firing the VP70, just a couple things. So for me personally, the reason why I really just fell in love with this pistol so much, not for shooting, I'm going to tell you for carry, is simply because of one of my favorite video games of all time was Resident Evil 2. One of the main characters was named Leon S. Kennedy from Raccoon Police Department. And if you haven't played Resident Evil, it's a classic game. Make sure you go do it. There's a lot of remakes. Anyway, I digress. But the main character was equipped with one of these weapons, and it was the VP70M version of it. But it was actually just a great thing, and I just thought it would look really cool and very unique when it came down to it. And I just fell in love with it. And I remember I was actually overseas in Iraq looking at an online gun site, getting that, using my hazard duty pay like any good soldier should, and looking at new firearms. And I had to wait for when I came back overseas to get on American soil. So it was pretty cool to be able to have this. So let's talk about a couple more odd things and oddballs about it and why it wasn't really successful, took off, and why Glock kind of stole the market from H&K. Well, there's a couple things, and make sure if you're representing AK or HK, make sure you listen to this. And if you're going to do a couple things with these things, improve the VP70 to representative, then maybe Instructor Flu's your guy. I don't know. Just let me know. Just reach out to me, brother. So here's a couple things. So some of the unique things is that if you want to look right here, you can see the sight picture here, which is actually pretty unique. So the front sight itself is actually equipped with a very unique bladed type of sight. I've never seen this in any other pistol. If you have, just let me know. Please comment down in the comment section. But as you can see, it's very unique that it has like a little ramp and an indentation in the middle that's really designed you to front sight. It is cool. It is very sturdy, and like I said, it's very unique when you look at it. But one of the biggest problems that I've kind of seen when it comes down to it is that it is a situation where is that if you're trying to take really precise shots with this pistol, it's a little more hard because the front sight, the way it's designed, being a ramp bladed style sight, it really takes up a lot of the target. Just to let you know on that. The rear sight is pretty simple. It's nothing more than a standard like V-notch sight you would see on anything else for a rear sight aperture when it comes down here. The top portion has a very nice texture groove here. Not too sure what that's designed to do really, but I think it does finish it really well. The hill release, it takes a lot getting used to. Most modern pistols, obviously, all you have to do is really just go ahead and, they're usually right next to the trigger so you can get your chance to do your magazines. You can do it with one hand. This, especially with the spring being so tight, it's a little more difficult to actually do that. But I will say, though, that it definitely holds in there pretty well. And the safety, You know, I think now with Glocks particularly have really shown that with proper firearm training, safety, and handling procedures, you really don't need to have a safety that's external. I think though that this is a very convenient position to do it, and it holds in there pretty well, dude. But sometimes it can get a little bit loose when you're hitting something. You could say, you know what, instructor flu. You know, back in the day when it comes down to it, high capacity magazine, semi-automatic. Why didn't this thing take off? Well, here's a reason why. As much as I have guys tried so much, it's like being in a relationship with a person you love, but you just know it's not going to work. As much as I've tried to make this work, the trigger on this weapon is absolutely horrible. I can tell you time and time again, I have tried a thought of processes to try to make this trigger so much bearable. Now, obviously, with a lot of things, with proper training, resources, techniques, and you can probably get better with it. But I really just don't think with better options out there, not just with Glock pistols, but with so many options of striker-fired pistols out there, even with improved ones from H&K, for me, it's really a no-brainer that this isn't a weapon that I would trust my life to. The best way to describe this trigger, when I've heard to, and I agree with it, it's like having a staple gun from Home Depot, the worst you ever had, and trying to use that in a firefight. It's rough. So once again, weapon is clear. And if you take a look on here, you can see right now I'm squeezing. Anyway, there's a little bit of creep. Then you come to a very, very defined wall. And this is the wall that's going to make you or break you. It's really hard. Now I'm pushing, squeezing, pressing on this pretty darn good, but still it is not going. And then, there we go. Then it pops off. And that's one round. Now I'm not the most strongest guy in the world as instructor flu, but I will tell you this, is that this is one thing that's very interesting about it. That trigger is just really bad. On a caveat to that, though, there are a couple of different of springs that you can have that I think are made by, I believe it's Wolf, I believe, is that gives you an option to switch out some of the striker springs that go inside the rear portion of the slide. I do think there's a minor improvement, but not enough to make this a really effective combat weapon or used as a everyday carry when it comes down to it. I will say though that these pistols are unique. You know, I'm very glad that I have the VP70 within my collection. I know this pistol is durable enough that I feel like you can throw it off of a 5-story building and it'll still hold up pretty well. Like I said, I really like how strong the polymer is. And I really absolutely love the look. I think that's one of the reasons why it has such a sex appeal compared to both video games and also to Hollywood, because it was also in the movie Aliens. But guys, practically speaking, it's just not a good pistol simply because the biggest drawback is that trigger. I can estimate even with the Wolf or with the Wolf spring in there, it's still probably a good 15 to any 20 pounds. I mean, I gotta get a measure to tell you how much it is, and which I'll do in a future video if you guys stick around. But I will say that this pistol itself is, if you take away its practicality now, I will say that this is really an amazing piece to have in my collection. I'm really glad that I do have as well. And that's just the VP70Z within a nutshell. So now that we covered the basic, we feel stripped it, talked a little about the history and things like that. Now what you all came for. So go grab your eyes and grab your ears, and it's time to go loud. Woo! Now that was exciting. Guys, thank you for joining me. Once again, if you have any questions or you want to be able to talk about stuff, please comment below. Let me know. If H&K could actually change the trigger and make this a much more functional weapon, would you actually buy it? Let me know down below. I will say I will be the first one to do so because I really love the look of the VP70. I love the history behind it. And still, an 18-round magazine back in 1970 was absolutely amazing. So with that being said, this channel is just getting started, and I'm going to give you guys some of the most coolest content you possibly provide. And we're going to talk about everything from firearms, self-defense tactics, equipment, and accessories, because my goal is to make sure that you, the armed citizen, is properly informed and properly educated to be the best armed citizen you can be, to make sure that we continue the freedoms we have in this great country of the United States. So next week, we're going to talk about my very favorite, in my personal opinion, the best CHTF carbine that you can have in a situation. And it might surprise you what it is, but I will let you know that this weapon was used in World War II and also was used in parts of Vietnam and also in Korea. And it's still to me one of my favorite carbines and one of my favorite carbines that my wife likes. You know what it is? Once again, comment below. So guys, in the meantime, just do me a favor. Make sure that you shoot straight and do not be a victim.